Understand the Navigator Java-enabled method and why it universally returns false on every modern web browser. In this example, we want to look at the Navigator.java-enabled property. First thing first, Java is not JavaScript. They are completely different programming languages. Back in the early days of the web, browsers used to run mini program called Java applets for things like complex web games or interactive chat room. So the Navigator.java-enable method was created to see if the user's browser had that Java plugin turned on. Today, those plugins are ancient history due to massive security risks. So modern browsers always return false. And we are going to test it in my own browser to see the output or the response to actually demonstrate that it usually returns false in modern browser. So let's look at the example together. So let's move into the script tag and let's use the document.getElement method. You can see that these are not something that I'm creating from scratch. These are the built-in part of the language that I'm just making reference to suit the need of what I'm trying to do per time. Java enabled is Navigator.java enabled. And because this is a method, I need to put opening and closing bracket, or else it will not work. And you can see Java enable is false. And this corresponds to what I said earlier, that it always returns false due to massive security risk that is associated with this plugin back when it used to be a thing to be turned on in browsers. Now, this examples call this example calls the built-in method, because modern web browsers no longer support browser-based Java plugin at all. The method we print is false on your screen, and it does not matter where you are trying this, whether it's on Chrome, whether it's on Apple Safari, Opera, or Microsoft Edge. It is always going to return false, and it's been one of the methods that is no longer supported due to the massive security risk that is associated with this method. So the Navigator.java enable method, we can enable method that you see here. You can see the parentheses at the end. So if you notice this parentheses at the end, it is a method. It denotes that what we are trying to execute is a method. So it needs that parenthesis. You can see that as at when I haven't added it, look at the output. Look at the display to the right. You can see Java enable this function, Java enable native code. This makes no sense and it makes no meaning. But once I add that bracket to it, you will see that every output will come clean and then past what we have in our text, as long as what we as well as what we have inside the method. So this is a method, a function you execute. So unlike the property variable that you looked at earlier, where you don't need to add anything at the end of that property name, it queries the browser's plugin architecture and returns a Boolean value. And like you know that the Boolean value can either be true or false. So if it is not true, then it is false, and if it is not false, then it is true. But in our own case, it is designed to always return false. The document.getElement by ID method targets the empty div that we have here with its ID, and then it now injects the text string that we have here. This is the text string part, along with the automatic false result that is returned by this method. And once it does that, it will now write it into the DOM and then allow us to be able to view it on the front side on our screen, as you can see here on my own screen. Now, here are a few key takeaways about this method. The navigator.java-enabled method is officially deprecated. That is, this method also has been removed. The web browsers dropped support for Java plugin entirely around 2018 under security guidelines. Number two, Java versus JavaScript. JavaScript runs natively inside every modern web browser without needing extra installation of plugin. Java requires its own development environment and is typically used today for back-end servers, Android apps, or desktop software, not inside web pages. So the reason for that distinction is to establish the difference between Java and JavaScript. Due to this Java enabled method, it is very easy to assume that this is related to Java programming language, whereas it is just a plugin that is being used in browsers back in the days that has now become deprecated and no longer in use. So this Java enabled method is not that it has anything to do with Java programming language. It's just a plugin that was used in the browser back in the day. Java on its own is Java itself is a programming language on its own that is used in back-end development, and it doesn't work inside web pages the way we use JavaScript on the browser and in web pages. So that is the difference between Java and JavaScript.